at the moment. And then, of course, internally, okay, well, you're out working, you're doing all these things, but when you get home, I still expect dinner to be ready. I still expect these things. I still expect you to be able to deal with the homework. So, I'm glad you brought that point up, Arthur and Susan, that, there are other pressures outside of what you're hearing in the medical profession and so forth that add to that stress for the Superwoman.
Right.
And one other comment is that when you look at the internal and external pressures, you can it's very easy to see why prevalence of high blood pressure, heart disease, and how we deal with the stresses, overeating is prevalent in the Black community. It's easy to correlate those factors, but one last point, and then I promise you I'm going to stop talking.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
This is you.
It's you.
Is in my profession, the stress that I have to deal with trying to, and I'm in a healthcare profession, and trying to educate those that are around me and not be perceived as the angry Black woman is huge. Every single day,
well,
I have to make a decision whether I'm going to speak up about what I see that is not correct.
Sure.
And dispel disparities and deal with, if I say it, what are they going to think? Am I going to be able to keep my job? And it is a stress every day. And then to come home and be the Superwoman, deal with the kids, deal with the husband, and deal with everything else, it's a lot of pressure. And a lot of times we don't want to tell people that we're under that stress, but we need this support group that evidently I'm about to start to be able to talk about those issues so we can reduce our risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, overeating, obesity, and all those things that come along with it.
Well, let me ask you the question. So what types of things, if you had a top 3, would you recommend in your group to women who feel that pressure, who are just at the end of their rope where they just don't care?
Seek help, be honest, and allow yourself to be vulnerable. It's okay to be vulnerable. You can still be considered a strong Black woman and be vulnerable at the same time. The two don't have to cancel each other out. They can exist at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
Wow. Well, I tell you,
there's a whole lot of work being done on this. People are looking at this now. There are a whole host of folks who are looking at this. Not only the pressures of just trying to take care of everybody else before taking care of yourself, or without taking care of yourself in many cases, but also how the whole racial piece plays into that. What you talked about, all those microaggressions, all those calculations that you have to do, at work, like, am I going to say something about this, or do I let that slide because I know right around the corner, if I answer this question's coming up next. I mean, you got to do more figuring out just for the regular everyday anything, and one of the things that some of the people who are doing some of the research on this particular piece of the problem is not that women need to learn to cope better with racial discrimination. The problem is racial discrimination itself and the need for interventions intended to address racial discrimination and experienced in the workplace by police and society at large. I mean, everywhere we go, we've got something that we've got to deal with. We've got to deal with it at work. We've got to deal with it in the stores. Or somebody following us around in the store. All of this other stuff, that lays heavy. So we've got all of the. Look at it this way: we've got because we're human beings. We've got all the same stressors that everybody else has: white, Black, whatever race.
Sure.
And then on top of that, and underlying all of that, is the issue of race. So you got all of that stuff to deal with, and then you still have this underlying tension of race that's in all of that we have to, as Black folks, have to deal with, and Black women in particular.
Correct.
That's correct.
And then you have to come back
Right.
home, and then you got work at home that you're taking care of, because for whatever the whole Superwoman piece. So where do you get your break?
Sure.
The commercial used to come out, Calgon, take me away.
That's right.
Right. We don't have a lot of Calgon right now.
We ain't got enough Calgon to take your weight, the weight that you all are carrying.
Exactly.
That we are carrying. And I take, I'm appreciative for Phil and both Arthur, but for their points. But we talk about a lot of things too, and we lean, on the male side as we are. But we trying to give the sisters some this time. So to let we got to take care of the sisters.
Sure.
Too, and
can
have
the sister get a little bit of something?
You
got
it. You got it. You got a whole lot of something. So you go out the house right now. Just go outside and do what you want to do. Roll around in the grass and come on back. Put your feet in the earth. And
roll in the grass.
That's right. Do what you want to do. Feel it.
Don't have my hair completely together. I can do whatever I want to do.
That's
do
right.
what you want to do. Be natural. Right. Go outside. We got your back.
And I tell you, you're lighting up the chat room tonight, and I have another question regarding your help group, and this is from Susan. Who can be in the group?
Anybody that's willing to have a conversation about stress, what Black women go through. It doesn't matter. I need anybody that's willing to actually have an honest conversation.
Sure.
See how she just took that on?
These days,
say, I'm not doing it. She said, it ain't even created yet. She's going to create it, though. See? Go ahead,
That's
Virgo.
right.
Do
That's
your
right.
thing.
And then, wait.
Anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I cut you off.
Just recently having a group conversation with my team leads and our senior leadership at work about what's going on in the world today with the George Floyd. And we say we understand about systemic racism, but I don't think we understand to the point that they don't understand. I'm not sure we really get it, because in that meeting that we had, what I did, because I couldn't hold the pressure anymore as a Black woman, I broke down and decided I didn't give a darn about what they were going to think about me or what I said or how it was going to affect my job. I said, and I'm talking to my executive director and my chief operating officer. I said, you as Caucasian women do not have to have the same conversations with your children that I have to have. And I started to cry. I said, you don't have to tell them how to deal with being stopped by a cop. You don't have to do that, but I have to do that. You don't have to worry every day about your children and what's going on in the world, but I do. And I started to cry. And I said, at that point, I don't care. I can't hold this. I can't be this strong Black woman. And that's why I say you have to be able to be both. You have to be able to say, I'm going to be vulnerable, but still be that strong Black woman at the same time. And at that time, I just didn't care. I couldn't hold it all anymore. And I had more conversations, and that week after, about race, about disparities in healthcare, about Black women, about Black men, than I have ever had in the whole 5 years I've been at that job.
Sure. And before, I have another comment that's gonna light it up a little bit. But before we do that, can you give your contact information? Because we've had several folks chatting that want your contact information.
Yes. My name is Verdell Mitchell. You can reach me at VMITCHELL at seniortlc.org. I give you my work number because that's where I am most of the time. You can reach me at 704-874-7266. 2295, and I'll reply to anybody. Just leave me a message. I'm always in a meeting, but just leave me a message, and I'll call you back.
All right. And then
don't be no superwoman, don't. If you can't do it, you can't do it. You just take yourself a minute, because you don't know who you might reach out here, woman. Vernell, you don't know.
That's
you
right.
Just might be.
You're right, and I'm currently in the process of working on my own business, which is to help families deal with the effects of dealing with somebody or caring for somebody with dementia or Alzheimer's. And so I will have more information to come on that. And so,
sure.
Sinbad, if you ever want to have a podcast about Black folks and dementia.
Yes, I do.
I got you.
Yes.
All right. We're going to do that too.
I know personally how devastating that can be.
Yeah, Chief,
and so,
especially in the Black community.
Yes. That is a cruel and vicious illness. And it just, wow. I have another comment from William. And William says,
my man William,
the Superwoman mystique brings with it a burden today's women are finding difficult to live up to, as did our mothers. That said, maybe they should never have had to. That said, maybe they should have had to, past or present. But to be honest, I think Black women could do a better job than they are doing as mates. I know too many men who stay married because of the kids, but feel like they are in a self-induced prison, and like they are in a self-induced prison sentence with their very own superwoman. Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
I don't even
all
know.
right. Well,
prison sentence.
All I can say, I don't even really know quite what to say about that comment. Because I know that from my just personal perspective, Black women have carried some Black men for a long time and should have gotten out of relationships that they didn't for whatever the reason. Maybe it's because they felt like they were Superwoman and they needed to hold the family together. But
well, I tell you,
personally,
sure.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I can only respond to that from personal experience. And I was very fortunate to have come up through the ranks of a police department that historically had a reputation for being one of the most vicious places or departments, in the state of Maryland.
Correct.
As throughout the years, and everyone can tell you the story, you can read about, some of those things. And I tell you, that's a tough business to be in, law enforcement, period. And I can tell you right now that I would not have been as successful as I was had it not been for my Superwoman, because you have to study. You have to also pay attention to the things that are going on at the job and all of the trappings that come from knowing that you're in a profession where you're not necessarily wanted. And then when you come home and you have to talk about it and de-stress and all the other things, and you have somebody saying, I hear you, you're going to be all right, get out there, keep it moving, I got you. You can't put a price on that type of support. I tell you. Now, everyone's experience may not have been as great as mine, but I can tell you from the examples that I saw in my own house, plus the example I grew up with in Baltimore, watching my mother support my father and vice versa, that was what I thought was the epitome of Black love. Was hearing my dad come home, talk about some things at work, and my mom not only giving him that nurturing and that support, but also they had enough love and respect for each other that she could even tell him, well, in that case, you were wrong. And when she put it out there and said, you either right